Hello, and welcome to the latest Talking Transport podcast from London TravelWatch. As London's independent transport watchdog, we aim to speak up for all passengers who travel in and around London, as well as those who walk, cycle, and wheel in the capital. Today, we're going to be looking at London TravelWatch's role as an appeals body. But before we do that, I'll just introduce myself and our guests for today's podcast. My name is Trevor Rosenberg. I'm the Policy and Advocacy Officer at London TravelWatch, and I'm pleased to introduce Mags Croucher, who's the Senior Casework Officer in London TravelWatch's Casework team. It's good to see you, Mags.
And you too, Trevor. Thank you.
Okay, so to begin with, it'd be interesting to find out a bit about what it actually means for London TravelWatch as the appeals body and the kind of work that you do within the Casework team.
Yeah, sure. Well, firstly, I ought to say to you that we do have only a small group of us. There's four of us. There's a manager and, apart from myself, two other caseworkers for the whole of London and the area that London TravelWatch covers. Our role really means to me is to be the ears and eyes of the passengers who use transport within London, including those others that use the pavements and the roads within the London area. We are there to represent them as much as we can, as fully as we can, and we will do our best. And as I've often said, and probably bored lots of people to death with, is where would these people be if we weren't here? I've been in the railway industry now for 25 years, but I've always enjoyed helping people. So I was really delighted that when I managed to get the opportunity to come to London TravelWatch and represent passengers. I've been here now 16 years, so I must enjoy it, mustn't I?
And in terms of kind of the geography that we're talking about here, we're calling it London TravelWatch. Is it all of London and is it all transport operated in the capital?
We cover all TfL motor transports that we do, train companies when they have their journey start or end in London. We deal with black cabs in whole in general, but we deal with Uber so long as TfL have reviewed the matter. And we also deal with the river boats, but only in a very limited part. And that seems really odd, but we deal with the bit on the piers, but we don't deal with actually the boats themselves, nor do we deal with the staff that are on the river boats. But we always say to people, if you're not sure, because we understand it's very confusing as to what we do and what we don't do. And so, write to us and we can let you know.
So on the kind of how it all works then. So if I have a complaint, say, a problem with a bus, does that mean I just come straight to London Travel to say, can you help me out? Or there are things that I need to know before I kind of start the process?
No, what you need to do is go to, in this case, it'd be TfL, but to any train company or TfL, they need to have the opportunity to reply before they come to us. This is really because they need to be able to look at the matter, investigate it, can give a reply before we come, and we'll do what we can. So yes, please contact them first. Then if you're not happy, send everything to us and we'll have a look at it.
For say an example, I wasn't happy with what TfL said. I think, okay, I'll go to London TravelWatch then. So kind of what power does London TravelWatch have to get the outcome that I want from kind of my appeal?
So what we do is we look, when we get the correspondence, we'll read it all through and we look at it with a fresh pair of eyes, because sometimes train companies do miss things. And surprisingly enough, there have been times when even the prosecution teams have missed something. It's not good for passengers, of course, but it means that we're here and we can challenge them. Not long ago, I had a father come to us whose son had got a ticket to travel to school where he was doing the mock at A-level. So it's an extremely stressful time. He couldn't get off at the stop he wanted to get off because there was an incident on the railway network and the train wasn't stopping at his station. And the next station just happened to be Waterloo, where he was penalty fared. He wasn't happy with that. Appeals were made and they were all rejected. And then he came to us. I know the people at the train company's prosecution team, not that I've ever met them, but they agreed to have a look at it again. And they agreed that given the circumstances, that he was obviously very stressed. He's neurodivergent. Not that makes a difference, but it doesn't means that it would have made things worse for him. That they agreed to look at it, and they agreed to look at again and see whether they could get a more favourable outcome, which they did. So it's a relationship we build up. I think that are the important parts.
Mm-hmm. And And I'd say every case is unique in its own way, and
Yes.
every case is looked in its own merits. Are there kind of common themes that come through from you and your colleagues look at from appeals, more frequent than others, perhaps?
Well, we have a huge range, as you can imagine. These are passengers, they haven't been able to buy the right tickets, or they've got penalty fares because their Oyster card hasn't been successfully validated. Another mode of transport we actually cover is Eurostar. Might seem a bit strange, but Eurostar actually has all their journeys to and from Europe start in and out of London. So that's why we deal with them. But we get people that come to us about their experiences in the continents. So if it's something that we can help with, we will go to Eurostar and we will do it. We will try our hardest. And we do. We try really, really hard. But as you can see, because of the wide range of topics that we cover, we have to have a wide knowledge of maybe some of the terms and conditions. But as somebody once said to me a long time ago when I worked on the coal front, is you don't have to know everything. You just have to know where to get it from or who to ask to get it. So that's why we often come to our colleagues and ask lots of questions and probably get a bit fed up with it.
Yeah, it's all part of learning. Yeah, and there's the sharing of information from kind of my
Well,
other
that's right.
and cross back as well. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
part of the learning curve for that. I mean, so as well as helping passengers on an individual basis, I imagine there are cases where the issues that come up can also be used to help passengers more widely. I don't know if there's any examples you could kind of provide about that.
There was a really, really important one not many years ago, actually, when the increase of penalty fares, the increase of the amount you had to pay for penalty fares came in. But before that, it was either £20 or twice the cost of the fare, whichever was the greatest. So what we found was that from people coming to us, they were a bit concerned about how much they were being charged. And it turned out what they were being charged wasn't the fare for the specific journey they were making, but an anytime ticket. So this would mean, so for example, if you had travelled, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, when you potentially could have got an anytime ticket, you would have actually have been charged for an anytime ticket, so like a peak fare ticket, which meant people being charged a great deal more. We went to the relevant authorities and they agreed that the wording in the regulations said it should be for the specific journey, not for anytime ticket. So that meant all the train companies had to review the penalty fares that had been charged, and hundreds, if not thousands, of people were getting refunds. So it was a brilliant example of how we help. But we have complex cases where people come with a cry of help to us. This lady came to us that her daughter had on her Oyster card that she had topped up disappearing money. I say it in inverted commas because she couldn't understand it. So I think she'd been to TfL and they couldn't help. So she came to us, and again, it's through the relationships that we build with TfL and the other train companies that I knew the people to go and ask and speak to. And they were able to say, no, the Oyster card had been used for these journeys. So I was able to go back to the mother and say, no, your daughter had made these journeys, or the Oyster card had made these journeys. So she could then go and ask her daughter to explain what had happened and discuss what had happened. Because you never know, a young girl, she was only a young teenager, I think, where she was going or who, if she was being coerced. So it was almost like a bit of safeguarding to her. It just goes to show the complex cases we have. And okay, it only involved her, but it could have involved a much wider issue.
I totally understand, yeah. And in terms of the numbers of appeals we get, perhaps you can give a sense of kind of the scale of that and kind of perhaps how successful we are in managing to get the transport authorities to uphold part of all of an appeal.
Since April, I've had 250 cases. 163 of those have had improved outcomes.
Well, okay.
So it's quite an impressive number. And since that time, I've had about £10,000 of financial awards as well. So it just goes to show the impact that casework can have, because as I said, we can't insist that they offer a penny, but we can definitely help. And I've got 42 cases. Actually, I've got 44 cases now since this morning. I wrote that yesterday. So it's a bit more.
Quite a lot, lots of
Yeah,
constant kind of numbers coming.
yes, it fluctuates, I suppose, because the thing is, you close in some cases and others come in. we do get some not coming in.
And I suppose when there's some big incidents happening on say the rail network, that presumably in due course you may get once people have had an opportunity to put a complaint in, perhaps to the Transport Authority, they come through to us because they may not be happy. I think perhaps Eurostar, I think, could be one of those examples.
Well, that's right. I think Eurostar are very good at responding to people nowadays. But we do have people that come to us, and where we can, we will try and help. Because there are sometimes, I've got some examples later where people have come to us after an incident, like you say, and we can't help them get a financial outcome, but we can definitely help them get a more detailed or a better explanation of why they can't get what they're looking for.
Yeah, and that's important as well, just to know.
That's right.
Yes, even
That's
the basic
right.
sense. So I'm sure the casework team has seen all kinds of appeals over the years. I don't know if there's some kind of more unusual ones that you and your colleagues have had to look at over the years.
You're most certainly right, there are. I remember when my manager first started on her first day, she was astonished that somebody thought there ought to be a hospitality trolley on the underground. Can you imagine having one on the busy tube train, trying to get a trolley through crowds of people? It's just, well, there you go. Another was given about a bus that was on the diversion, and somebody wanted to know why TfL couldn't put a bus replacement service on that route. There's a reason why you have bus on diversion. If there's roadworks, you're not going to get a replacement bus through it. It's just odd. We also get people coming to London TravelWatch asking for advice. And one of them was, can I take a cutlery set on Eurostar? So, and Eurostar, I think they'd sent us a copy of the reply back saying they had to get in touch with the French border control because it's not up to Eurostar really what they can take, it's the border control. So you can see we do get some interesting cases.
Okay. And I guess obviously the personal thing is that you're doing individual cases and trying to do your best for people. And I imagine it's quite rewarding when you are able to secure those wins for people, or even, I guess, even if you can't get the win, that you're able then to kind of liaise with obviously the operator and then go back to the kind of passenger and say that, explain why the situation and kind of hopefully to get some positive feedback, even when you're not able to get the result that obviously the passenger wants.
Yes, you're definitely right about that. We had a case where a man, he's got a staff pass that he can get discounted tickets on Eurostar. And the only way you can do it is by going to St Pancras to do that. So he went there. He spent 2.5 hours trying to get a ticket. And the person who was doing it, I think something must have happened to their system, so they had to reboot it. Then they had to ask somebody else because I think they had to go off and do something else. So they asked somebody else to take over midstream, and there was nowhere to sit down at the time. It was absolutely awful. And then, to make it matters worse, he was then told to go out and use a terminal to do it himself. So that wasn't at all helpful. So when we appealed to Eurostar, they said it was a new service centre they'd just been put in at St Pancras. And when experienced teething difficulties, and I'll just change glasses because I want to read exactly what he said, because I think it's important when people have written words that you ought to read it out properly. And he said, "Thank you for your additional work in processing my complaint. It's really satisfying to have a positive outcome." So that was lovely. Yeah, we had another where a person had put a travel card on an Oyster card and it stopped working after the first use. This happened during the cyber incident, or the effects of the cyber incident last autumn, and which meant that he couldn't actually get his journey history statement or anything like that. That they couldn't check anything either. So they agreed to refund the whole cost of the travel card because they really accepted it wasn't his fault at all. So his response was, "I just wanted to send a heartfelt thank you for your help in resolving the issue with my travel card. Your support made a big difference, and I truly appreciate the time and effort you put into helping me get my money back. Wishing you all the best in the future and continued success in everything you do," which is really lovely. I've got some examples here. I'll only give you a couple because I've got actually 4, but I think that's maybe too many. About ones where there are times when we haven't been able to get a positive outcome for people. And it's just really quite heartwarming, actually, when you get these. This person says, "Thanks so much for this and your hard work." It's actually very helpful, as the train company has gone into much more detail with you rather than anything they sent to me. While it's a shame there was no refund offered, it's still a good resolution, as I have found out more reasoning. And another one where I was saying about having issues where they want to know the reason why. It says, "Thank you for your detailed explanation regarding the flight cost reimbursement. Your breakdown of the legal terms is really helpful," which is lovely because, I suppose he could have gone and looked on their terms and conditions, but it's just nice having it. So they're really lovely, and it's good to have it. But also, what I've done is I've created a thank you folder on my emails. So if you're getting a bad day and you get some people that you really cannot help and they will not take no for an answer, you can look in those, and it just makes you realise the good job you are doing to people. You are helping a lot of people.
Sometimes I know from I've put complaints in other industries. It's sometimes even if it can't be what you want, can't be actioned. It's explaining why not and breaking things down
Yeah.
and doing that kind of understanding, and then knowing in the future that's the situation. So yeah, I think that's just it's putting yourself in the place where, for this case, the passenger would
That's
be.
right.
What would be useful if I was the one putting that in, and not seeing, but I know I appreciate that if I ever get a response to know that's what that means.
It's knowing that you've been taken seriously, isn't it?
As an
Or
individual.
you've been listened to.
Yeah.
But lastly, what I was going to say with the thanks is this happened quite a long time ago, but and I did get thanks from people at the time, but unfortunately not on the system anymore. But you may remember when HS1 started running in North Kent and it came into St Pancras, because all the classic, what they call classic trains, the normal ones that I call them, they come up from the Kent coast up into London Bridge, Waterloo East Charing Cross, or generally those ways. So people were using those trains, I think, getting off at London Bridge and getting onto City Thames Link to go to work, so they've been used to that. So when the high-speed rail link was introduced, you couldn't come south. So people were finding they were paid a hell of a lot of money for those tickets, and they were getting penalty fares going. I think it was just to City Thames Link. It could have been others coming down towards London Bridge. So I think we might have had about half a dozen of those people came to us, but there must have been lots of others that were affected. What we did is we got in touch with the various organisations, various train companies, and I suppose knock their heads together a little bit. And they agreed to change it so that anybody that had a high-speed rail ticket could come south, so they could make their journeys they'd done before. For me, I'm really proud that we were able to do that. I know we should say that we're really proud of the penalty fares that we got changed, because that affected the whole our nation, really. But for me, this is one I'm really pleased with.
Because it shows the value that if you as an individual, you think this is wrong, or am I understanding this right, to put that in, and then because there may be someone who's thinking exactly the same thing, and obviously it comes through to us, and then, as you say, we get a number of things that can then reflect a wider issue, which we then, as I say, because of those relationships we have, we can then raise, and hopefully then resolve that better for the passengers. So one person can then really help a lot of people.
And you're quite right. It really has that ripple effect. So please, if you think you've got something, as Trevor says, it may not be just you that's had that problem, please contact us.
And so you've got a lot of experience working in the casework team, and those your other colleagues got a great deal of experience too.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, perhaps over the years, how things might have changed. I mean, one thing I'm particularly thinking of is technology, train tickets on phones and other kind of devices, and other things like that. Have there been kind of changes to some of the kind of issues that have come through in recent years?
Well, the main reason for appeals hasn't changed. You're right, it's technology that's causing issues. So you might get penalty fare, but half the problem is with the technology that's gone into it. One of those is where more and more people are being encouraged by their tickets on their phone and have their tickets on their phone. Now, I've even succumbed to it. Now I'm buying my daily tickets and their e-tickets. But unfortunately, there are times when batteries die on phones, and because it's the passenger's responsibility to ensure they are able to show a valid ticket upon request, if the phone dies, they can't. And this makes it incredibly difficult for them to appeal or us to appeal because they've had a valid ticket. They just haven't been able to show it. So that really is very difficult. Going on from that, there is what's called card clash. And that's where somebody's got an account and the account is either on their phone and they've also got a bank card, or they've got it, say, on their phone and they've got it on their watch. I don't understand banking processes, but apparently there are different numbers connected to these types of devices. And TfL's system can't verify that one's the same as the other. So what happens is you go in with your mobile phone, you tap out with your card. Then you get 2 incomplete journeys, so you're actually paying twice for the same journey. So that's why you've got to be very careful. But you've also got to be careful with having, say in your wallet, you've got 2 cards. Say you've got a Freedom Pass, for example. You might have your Freedom Pass in there with your bank or debit card or a credit card. And so then they will take the money out of the credit card because it doesn't recognise the Freedom Pass. So you do need to keep these things separate. So really take one out from the other and use one. And if you're going to use the same account, make sure that you use either the same device or card for both tapping in and tapping out. And that will ensure that you've made the right journey. But another is rail cards. Rail cards are bought online a lot nowadays. The problem with that is that people don't actually realise that their rail cards have expired or they're due to expire. So this means that when it comes to the actual journey, they haven't got a valid ticket for their journey because their rail card has expired. And the problem then is that they aren't given penalty fares, or their details are passed to the prosecution team or the fraud team. The fraud team will then look at the history of their ticket purchasing, which they're allowed to do, and can often run into hundreds, if not thousands of pounds. I've been up to about £1,000 or not, a little bit more that I've seen, because people just haven't realised for a long time that they're travelling with an out-of-date rail card. But they are given the opportunity then to send in evidence of having had a rail card. So I've had one recently where somebody had just forgotten, she had a valid rail card, she had just forgotten to attach it to her account. So once they'd realised that she did have a valid rail card for all the journeys she'd made, they cancelled everything. So I must tell her that. She'll be pleased to hear that.
And I suppose on the other side of that, you were saying about some things have remained the same, so there are perennial things, compared to when you joined the team, that are still coming through now.
Yes, there are, unfortunately. Buses not stopping, penalty fares on all methods of transport, poor complaints handling and reliability. Because as we were saying earlier, you were saying you want to be heard if you make a complaint. And I think that's what most people want. They're aware that things will go wrong, but they want to make sure they will be heard and they will be taken seriously.
And just a final question, if you could give one piece of advice to anyone who's kind of thinks, okay, I'm not happy with the response from the transport operator, I'm going to put an appeal into London TravelWatch, what kind of piece of advice would you give them?
The most important piece of advice is to send us all of the correspondence when you first contact us. Otherwise, we've got to go back to you, ask for it, and it just takes time. And people who come to us have already been through the complaint system with the train company. The last thing they want to do is have more time taken by having us to go back to them, then go back to us. So please send everything.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much, Max. It's been a pleasure to speak to you.
And to you, Trevor. Thank you.
If you'd like to find out more about how you can put in a complaint to a transport operator or an appeal to London TravelWatch, please go to our website, londontravelwatch.org.uk/complaints and appeals. If you'd like to find out more about London TravelWatch's work, please do look on our website, sign up to our newsletter, and keep an eye out for our next podcast. But until then, thank you for taking the time to watch or listen, and goodbye.